There was something that the Mayans, Aztecs, Mesopotamians, Egyptians, and the Chinese all had in common. And that is that they all had pyramids that were constructed in the same ziggurat-shaped style at the very same time, even though they lived worlds apart from one another. And I want to take a minute to explain why that's significant. You see, these people, they had no means of communication. And even if they did, it wouldn't have mattered because they didn't speak the same language. They were all on different continents, completely separated, oceans between and thousands of miles apart, without any way to share ideas with one another. So that begs the question, how did this happen? And could it possibly have something to do with the fact that the Bible tells us that all these nations, comprised of all these people, used to be working on the same architectural project together? And that project we're told of in the book of Genesis, chapter 11, when they were building the Tower of Babel, back when they lived together and everyone spoke the same universal language. So again, I'll ask that question one more time. How did all these people end up building the same style of megastructures all over the world at the same time? It only makes sense that many of the families that were scattered at Babel took the idea of this great tower that they were all building together to their new lands. And that's where they began building projects of their own, erecting their own pyramids or towers, whatever you want to call them. So contrary to what the History Channel will teach you, or your children, that would mean that Egypt and these other ancient civilizations began after Babel, which came after the flood. And I can't chalk it up to coincidence that all these diverse people groups shared the same sophisticated blueprint for building pyramids by random chance. Remember, the Bible said that all their languages were confused before they were pushed apart, because God gave a command in Genesis to the people to be fruitful, to multiply, and to fill the earth. But that's not what they chose to do. They weren't listening. They were basically creating a human ladder to reach the heavens, trying to work themselves there. Sound familiar? And another thing, all these ancient civilizations, they all had their own flood legend too. Isn't that interesting? I would imagine that's something they probably would have all talked about at Babel, the flood. I've said it once and I'll say it again. Everything always points back to the truth of God's word. So don't just mindlessly accept the secular narrative about world history, because their goal is real simple, and it's always been the same. It's to explain everything you see without acknowledging supernatural creation or the global flood. Anything but one of those two things. But if you allow it to, the Bible will clear up any confusion you may have and give you a solid understanding of this world, so you can then correctly interpret the evidence through the lens of a biblical worldview. Back in 2018, I went to Mexico to see the Mayan pyramid, and it was one of the coolest things that I've ever seen. But you know, being able to accurately put these landmarks and events in their proper place, man, that makes everything so much better.